Hey guys, it's Kevin in the movie for you guys. I'm reviewing this movie that I don't think many people know about, but I figured I would check it out, and that is Marrowbone. And what Marrowbone is essentially about is we center on this family of six, basically. There are like four kids and their mother. Basically, they have fled their home away from their very violent and heavy-tempered father, basically to start anew and are basically trying to start fresh, all chained, all the way from going as far as, changing their name to Marrowbone and things like that. And for a while, everything seems to be going good for them. That is until the mother dies. Basically, the rest of the kids are basically in hiding. They try to do what they can to cover up this death as best as they can. And along the way, they start to realize that there might be a otherworldly presence in the house with them. So Marrowbone in general, I was very interested in this movie. Going into it, I knew basically nothing. All I knew is that it had a really great cast, especially Anya Teller Joy and Charlie Heaton, and knowing that there was a movie coming out that was supposed to star those two, I thought, hey, maybe I could watch this to alleviate, just the sadness a little bit that the movie that was supposed to be, coming out with them isn't coming out until next year. Maybe I could do that. But I also was very interested. I did think that this could be a very interesting film. And I will say this, Marrowbone is a good movie, but it's not a great movie. It doesn't work as well as it wants to, but it does have some really cool ideas in there. We're just getting to right now, though, starting off with the cast. And going in this movie, like I said, that was actually the one thing I was really looking forward to. The cast here are, for the most part, all really great. There's really no one that I thought wasn't good in here. But easily the standout of this movie is George McKay as our main character here, Jack, who I loved him in this movie. This was a game-changing performance from him. And here's the thing. He wasn't one of the actors that I went to this movie familiar with. I haven't really seen him in much of anything except like 11/22/63 and Captain Fantastic. Those are the only two things I've seen him in, and neither of those things did he really stick out that much to me. Here, however, he absolutely did. I loved what he did in this movie. Jack is someone who, he does what he can to protect his family, and you can tell that he's trying to keep the family afloat and make sure that everything is going to go great with them. But at the same time, he is trying to be a normal adult, and he is trying to maintain relationships and things like that. And I really loved where his character went. He has some truly amazing stuff, particularly in the third act of this movie, and really kind of blew me away a little bit. Again, I wasn't really familiar with him prior to this film, but towards the end, I definitely am very happy that I saw this because he was fantastic here, and I definitely do want to see more stuff for sure. And then Anya Teller Joy as Allie, of course I was really looking forward to. In fact, out of everyone, that was the person I was most looking forward to. I mean, what can I say about her that I haven't already said? She's one of the most just dynamic, one of the best character actors, I think, working today. She gets so into her characters, and she, both can creep you out, but also can get you to really sympathize with her. And here, once again, she does a really great job. She's actually playing, like, the normal one out of everyone in the movie, which is not something you see out of her a lot, but I thought that she was really great here. Her and MacKay do actually have really good chemistry, and I did think she did really good in this film. Again, towards the end, I thought she had some really strong stuff, and while I will say I do think this is the weakest performance from her I've seen so far, she still is really damn good in this movie, and again, I think just continues to show how strong of an actress she really is. And then everyone else here also does a really great job. I thought all of the rest of the three siblings were both really strong. Charlie Heaton has some really great stuff here. Mia Goth I thought was fine. I didn't think she was amazing or anything like that, but I did really like her character. She's kind of like the matriarch of the family after the mother dies, trying to like keep everyone together, and I really did like that about her. I really liked Matthew Stagg, I have to say. I was very impressed by this performance. Again, not someone I was familiar with, but this was a really well done childhood performance. What I really love about Sam is that he basically is just trying to be a normal kid, and all the other siblings have kind of kept the harsh realities of what's actually going on from him, why they actually ran away, what happened to their mother, all this, they might tell him a little bit, but he doesn't really understand what's going on, and to throw a kid in this situation could have been really annoying, but thankfully, this actor, Stagg, really does keep it together, and I thought he was honestly really great in this movie. I was very impressed by him, and once again, I definitely want to see him do more stuff. Kyle Stoller, I thought was really good. Really, everyone does a really good job in this film. I don't really think there's a bad performance to be found, and that is definitely something I will absolutely give this film. So now let's get to the directing and the writing, because I definitely do want to talk about that. Now, the director of this film, Sergio G. Sanchez, I know he is very famous for the movie The Orphanage, and I unfortunately have not seen this film, but I can definitely see why people are such a fan of him, because this directing is really spot on. Now, I will say, this is not a horror movie. Don't go into this movie thinking this is going to be like a straight up horror. It's something in the vein of like Crimson Peak, where it is a gothic drama with horror elements. That's like the best way to really describe it, and I think it's handled quite well in that regard. The dramatic moments work very well here. The story is very engaging. We'll get to that with the writing, but I thought the dramatic moments did actually work very well. There are some really legitimately scary moments in this movie, and you don't really know what's going on, and I thought the tension was very well realized in that regard, and I thought he did a very good job when it came to maintaining those two tones. I thought the horror and the drama in conjunction with each other actually did work very well. There are points in this movie where it's really sentimental and it's really sweet, and then there are points in the movie where it is actually very scary, and I thought he did do a good job of balancing those two tones. I did enjoy the directing overall, and I was impressed by it. The writing, on the other hand, this is where we get into some problems, because again, the story on itself is really good. I really did like the story of this movie. It has one of the best, I think, prologues I've seen in quite a long time, and what I really do love about this film is that the way the movie starts out, there's sort of like this one sort of thing that happens, and we don't really know, what the outcome was until far later into the film. It's a film where they're not really telling you a lot of what's going on, and I always respect when a movie does that. I like when a movie keeps things secret. I like when it doesn't treat the audience like they're dumb, and they do that very well here. There's a lot of mystery throughout this film, and there was a lot of stuff that legitimately does keep you guessing, and I really loved it when it came to the story. I thought that was definitely a very well-handled story. I thought all the stuff between, Jack and his siblings all were really great. I thought the pact that they had and how close they all were, and the fact that they have to stay inside the house because of this one circumstance, which again, I'm not really going to get into, but I thought was very well handled, and I really did love the main story overall. I did think it was very interesting. The problem is there's a little too much going on within this film. Right off the bat, like I said, everything with Sam and his siblings I think is definitely very well done. The movie does play up a lot of horrific tones, and at points it does feel like this is going to be a ghost movie, and without getting into it, that's not really the case. This movie is much more realistic than you would expect it to be, and that's something that I thought was actually very well done. The movie's very shocking in that way, and there's not really a lot of stuff in this movie that I really did see coming, especially a plot twist, which we'll get to a little bit later, but I really did not see it coming at all. Everything else in this movie, however, is kind of bland, to be honest with you. Particularly this character of Tom that comes into the movie. Now, it's not like his character can't be here, because he is very vital to the story. I mean, he shows up and basically he tells them that they need to pay all this, like, money, and they need to, pay off their debt and things like that, or else they're all going to get separated, and this story does become very interesting, because you care about these siblings, you care about the tight-knit family that they really do have, and you don't want them to be split up. It's just the character on his own is quite inconsequential, and there really isn't much to him, and unfortunately, the only reason this character's here is to have a love triangle with Anya Teller Joy's character, and it's not like, again, you can cut that out of the film. It just, at points, feels very unnecessary, and I don't really know why they chose to go in that direction, which, let's jump into Anya Teller Joy, because as much as I do like her in this movie, I don't think I would enjoy this movie, her character, as much if it wasn't played by her, because on her own, this character is pretty one note. There really is not much to her. She meets the family, she and Jack start a romance, and then she's with Tom, and that's really it. There's not really much else for her to do than just to be a love interest to Jack and have this, like, love triangle between her, Jack, and Tom. There's really nothing else going on with her as a character, and I was very disappointed. And again, I think that just really attributes how great Joy is as an actress. I think she deserves a lot better than this film, and to be honest with you, if she wasn't in this movie, I don't think I would be as warm on her character as I am right now, simply because she was so great in the film that in scenes that for a lesser actor could have been really bland and didn't really do much of anything, she did add legitimate layers to this character. It's just as the character, you know, Taylor Joy's performance notwithstanding, this character is incredibly bland, and I think this is easily her weakest role yet. So yeah, I was definitely quite let down by that. Also, as good as the suspense is in this movie, the other siblings in this film, there just isn't really a lot going on with them. Charlie Heaton in particular, I thought, just didn't really have that much of an arc. It seemed like they were kind of confused with what they really wanted to do with him, and, you know, it didn't really seem like they did a lot with these three siblings. However, towards the end of the film, there is actually a pretty huge plot twist. So there's actually two, but one that changes pretty much the entire way we think about the movie, and that's when it actually does start to make sense, and I do think it is a really cool idea, and there are legitimate seeds that do connect when it comes to this plot twist. There are things I really do like here. Unfortunately, I just don't think that it connects as well as the movie really thinks it does. There's a lot of stuff here that's kind of left up in the air. There's a lot of stuff here that really doesn't make as much sense as I think the movie thinks it does, and especially the way the movie ends, it doesn't necessarily end in a satisfying manner, and I really couldn't tell what they were trying to do when it came to this ending, because it seems like at first that this is an ending that is trying to say one thing, and then at the end it feels like it's saying something different. So I don't really know what that ending was all about. I was very confused when it came to it, and I think that was the point. I think they were trying to confuse us. I think this is a movie that I do want to see again at some point. It's just right now, I'm not 100% sure, as good as the twist is, if it actually does work. Because again, I can recognize that this movie is a really cool twist. It's just how well does the movie, execute it, and does it actually present it in a way where it does make sense? And I think some of it does. It's just kind of like, you know, the twist isn't as interesting, is basically just, you know, the sum of its parts, really. That's the best way to describe it. The whole isn't as interesting as some of its parts. That's, like, the best way to describe it when it comes to the twist, and I do think they could have done more there. The cinematography in this movie, though, is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, just shots of the mansion in general are very eerie. They evoke a sense of fear, and you really do feel quite uneasy throughout this film. There's a lot of really great scenes, and there's not really a ton of like jump scares and things like that. A lot of the scenes are quite practical, and I did think that it was very well handled. Particularly scenes involving Matthew Stagg. I thought he actually did have some really great, you know, legitimately scary scenes in this film, and I do think it did a pretty good job with that. The score as well, I also really liked, and the editing. This movie pretty much did fly by for me. I wasn't really bored or anything like that. I was into it most of the time, and I do think that, for the most part, this movie was really engaging. Like I said, guys, Marrowbone as a whole is a very interesting film. I think it has a lot of interesting stuff in it. It's got a really great performance, especially from McKay and Anya Teller Joy. It does have some underused characters, and it has a twist that I think is really cool. I just really need to think about if it really does make a lot of sense. And as much as I did enjoy this movie, I just don't think everything came together as well as it thinks it really does. But again, I will give this movie points for trying to do something different and trying to tell a very different type of story. You think you know where this movie's going to go, and you really don't. And if there's one thing this movie's not, it's definitely not predictable. I thought this movie was very shocking. I did think it had some really great stuff in there. I would overall recommend it, but in the end, guys, I am going to give Marrowbone overall a B-. So over, guys, in my review of Marrowbone, let me know what you guys thought of this movie overall, left your thoughts, and I guarantee most of you haven't seen this movie, but like I said, I would legitimately recommend it. I think it is honestly really a cool idea. I think it's got some really great performances in there. I think George McKay in general is enough for reason to check this out. Just don't go in thinking you're going to get the most satisfying experience possible, because you're really not. But that's in my review. Hope you guys enjoy. I'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.